Welcome to the Be a Boss Coaching mini podcast series 9 to Grind. In this podcast series, I will be talking with women of color, BIPOC, and queer entrepreneurs who are both juggling a 9 to 5 and running a business at the same time. In this series, I aim to shine a light on the many different ways that people balance their corporate careers with their entrepreneurial aspirations. Each episode will delve into their challenges, successes, and most importantly, what they do from the time they get up in the morning until they go to bed at night. I know firsthand how tough this balance act can be since I left my job a little too soon and I learned lessons along the way. I hope that with this series, you can get as much insight and strategies that will help you in your personal entrepreneurial journey and corporate career. Thanks for tuning in, and I can't wait for you to hear from these incredible entrepreneurs who have shared their time and their wisdom. I hope you enjoy. We are officially live. Hi, Nathy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
How
for
are you
having
today?
me. Good
Happy
morning.
Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy that it's Saturday, actually, because I have been very exhausted from my 9 to 5. So it's good that we're about to have this conversation.
Good. Yeah, I thought you were the perfect person to have this conversation with. I have a few other people in mind as well. But I'm glad to hear more about your experience and your particular experience around how we navigate or how you navigate both having a full-time job and running your business, because I think that is such a hard skill to do, and you are doing it. And one of the reasons why I was like, I don't know if I can do this, I'm gonna quit my job. And I did, right? But that's why I'm so excited to have this series where we talk about what does a day look like for you. But let's get started. So tell me your
Yeah.
name and the name of your business, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. So my name is Nathalia, and I'm money coach over at Chapina Building Wealth.
Chapina Building Wealth. Woo-hoo.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
formerly known as Mom Money Boss, I should say.
Oh,
You
I
know?
know. That's right. I know you changed it recently. Yes. Well, I do love the Chapina Building Wealth because I think it speaks to your culture and your background. And so I love that.
Thank you.
Okay. So tell me, Nathy, and can I say Nathy or do you prefer
Yeah.
Natalia?
No, that is fine.
Nathy. Okay. So tell me, Nathy, so what is your full-time job? I feel like that's something I don't really know too much about what you do. So tell me what you do at your full-time job.
That's actually, it's for a reason. I don't talk about it much because for many, many reasons. But basically, I'm a paralegal at the public defender's office here in LA County. And so part of what I do is help attorneys with trials, with criminal defense, with preparing mitigation reports for clients. So I do a lot of client interviews, getting documents, preparing reports, being in court. I do a variety of things. But basically, that's what I do. So public defenders are people who are appointed, or attorneys who are appointed to represent people who don't have money to represent themselves or to hire an attorney. So indigent clients. So a large population of the people that I work with are extremely low income, impoverished, living in dangerous communities and things like that. So it's definitely a huge difference in my life and what I do with the money coaching. But I love it. And criminal law has always been a passion of mine. And so I feel like I really hit the dream career with this.
Yeah, I totally get the passion behind it because I used to be, I wasn't a paralegal, that wasn't my role, but I used to be a disability case manager, which meant I worked with attorneys who were working on people with disability cases and going in front of a judge. And I would prepare case files and submitted records to ODAR, which is the Office of Disability Adjudication and Review. And I still remember all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I loved my job. And it's actually why I went into social work, because I worked with a lot of people who also were low income and wanted to change systems. But yeah, that's so cool. I didn't know what you did. I knew you were like at an office.
Yeah.
And
Yes, I do have I'm in an office, basically like a normal, like 9 to 5. We thankfully have 2 days to work from home, but usually it's if you don't have stuff in court. That's the kind of the downside. And recently I went through the biggest trial of my career, and that was it was a big shift and a big difference in that versus what I've been doing the past years. It hasn't been as chaotic. So definitely my job has changed because I actually got promoted last year and my responsibilities have changed, and the dedication to my job has really taken a front role recently. Whereas in the past, I feel like I had a little bit more work-life balance. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. Okay. So you shared a little bit about what you do at work. It sounds, I mean, just from being a paralegal, just that alone, I know can be a lot of work.
Mhm,
So I'd like to know what you do for
mhm.
your business, for money coaching. Can you talk to us about what you do there?
Yeah, of course. So my money coaching business is what I do on the side. And I host workshops for organizations or companies that hire me to present to their employees. The majority of my job is one-on-one coaching. So I do 6 months of one-on-one coaching with people of color. The majority have been women, but I have had one male client. like, and I'm open to anybody and anyone, honestly, but I do focus on women and people of color and teaching them how to manage money, get out of debt, learn how to save, credit scores, learn how to use credit cards responsibly. All the things that like honestly nobody taught us that I taught myself and I learned the hard way. My ultimate goal is to see people of color, Latinos, building wealth, right? Building generational wealth, investing in the stock market and taking advantage of any opportunities that their jobs bring them. So that's my main focus. That's what I do, I guess, part time. And that has changed a lot. I started just doing workshops. So I started out doing little workshops here and there. Then I went into one-on-one coaching. And I've also done a empowerment program, like a 90-day money empowerment program with another coach. We did that for about 2 years. And so we did group coaching in that container. And so I've done a little bit of everything.
Yeah, wow. So it feels like that's a whole other realm from what you
Yeah.
do as a paralegal. So that's really interesting. How long have you been working both full time
Mhm.
and been running your business at the same time?
Since 2020. So my business really started in 2020 because that's when I started to share my personal journey with my friends and family. So a lot of people don't know this, but my whole intent was never to start a business. I actually never wanted to be an entrepreneur because it just seemed like a lot of work. I'm very much like I like the stability of a 9 to 5, and I could just go to work and leave and that kind of deal, right? Entrepreneurship seemed very difficult when I was thinking about it or just when I saw it in real life, you know? And so I just started my Instagram private only with friends and family to teach them about my budgeting journey. And I wanted to teach them what I was learning because I felt like my mind was really opening, like all my horizons opened up about the opportunities that are out there that I didn't know were there for us. So that's how it started. And eventually people started asking me about hosting workshops like, oh, you should do a workshop about a 529. You should do a workshop about saving. You should do a workshop about debt payoff. And so I did. And that's kind of how it started. I just kind of started offering what people asked for, what they wanted to learn about. And then ever since then, I have been running the business, and the business has been changing and evolving every year.
Wow. So about 4 years. Well, we're early 2024, so about
Yeah.
a little bit over 3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know you talked a little bit about it in terms of really wanting to share what you've been learning within the financial literacy world. I think it's really interesting that you were like, entrepreneurship sounds kind of hard. I like this 9 to 5 where there's boundaries, right? It's like you can turn off, but how did you mentioned that you started with teaching on social media, then you got asked to teach about workshops. When did you say, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this journey as an entrepreneur or start this business. When did that start to change for you?
So that started in, I believe it was 2021 when I applied to be featured on the personal finance clubs. Like they have like a little series of like people who become millionaires. And so as a part of my feature, they asked me if I wanted to make my account public so people could ask me questions. And that was like my first big thing, like, oh, I have to open this up to the world, right? And I was really scared for many, many reasons, imposter syndrome, but also just like in what I do, I don't necessarily want my job connected to my business. And so, it was a security layer, and then there was also like an imposter layer, and then it was also like oh my God, am I really gonna do this? It was really scary, right? Opening yourself up to the general public. And I decided to do it. And I made my account public so that when they featured me, people could go in and ask me questions and I answered them. And that's really when everything blew up for me. I got a ton of followers from that, a lot of feedback. And that's what opened up my business to people beyond friends and family. So my first clients were friends, family, or close people that were in my community. It was literally, I had 400 followers. And once I was featured on Personal Finance Club, it just blew up from there. And then another thing I did that same year was I applied to a scholarship for FinCon, which is a financial conference that happens every year. So I applied to get a scholarship and I got it. So they paid for my ticket and I just had to pay for my travel. And then that really opened me up to the bigger community of financial creators, really. And that year is what opened up everything for me, opened up many doors and possibilities. And that's kind of when I just decided, okay, like this is a business, like this is a real thing.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. I know we had talked a little bit about it because I know we talked about you coming on and talking about accidental entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So I didn't know that was what had happened there where you were like,
Yeah.
this is just, I really just want to teach my family and friends about this. And then how it blew up from that to expanding to a larger community. So
Yeah.
that's really incredible. Okay. So as you started to blow up and get bigger, what were you thinking as you were beginning to experience that expansion and also
Mhm.
obviously still having your full-time job and having those responsibilities? You're a mom, right? So there's a lot of other familial responsibilities as well. What was going through your head as you were seeing this expansion and then also still having to be responsible to your full-time job and your personal responsibilities?
Yeah, when you mentioned that, like, I have my business and my 9 to 5, and I'm like, "Well, I'm also a mom," and that's a big factor in what I do, and it's a part why I have created a lot of boundaries around my business because I wanna prioritize having free time for my family. And so, really, when I did the transition, what was going on in my head was just kind of having fun with it. Like, I was really having fun with it at first, right? Like, I think 2021, I was just going with the flow, learning. I wasn't like full on, like, super serious about having a business and making a ton of money or doing anything like that. It really wasn't about the money ever for me. I started charging like $25 for my workshops. And I remember my first one on one clients, I charged $200 for 6 months of coaching, and I just wanted to start somewhere, right? But it was never for me about the money. It was just more like I wanted to have fun. I wanted to enjoy what I was doing. I wanted to watch other people succeed. That was my thing. And because it was during COVID, I think it was a little easier because I was home a lot. So I had a lot of time, right? Like I couldn't really do much. So at first it wasn't that bad. But I think in 2022 is really when I started to feel a burnout because I went back to work. I went back to my office and I started to feel the pressures of commuting and finding enough time in the day to do meetings with clients or this or that. And I found myself doing a lot of meetings over the weekends, which was fine, but that really cut into my time and my energy with my daughter. And so in November of 2022 is when I reached out to Kat for coaching because I was like almost losing my mind. Like I was so tired and so burnt out. There was so much on my plate, right? Like we were doing the program. I had to do my own bookkeeping, creating content. Like I had to do everything. And when I started to feel that, I didn't even have it in me to be on Canva anymore. Like, it was so draining. So I hired a VA, which helped me a lot, and she's been the one actually creating the content. I give her my ideas and she does it, which is that in and of itself has been like life-saving for me. To not have to do the mental game of that was insane. And so I focus on my coaching, on my one-on-one coaching, and I only do meetings on Fridays when I have Fridays off because I have every other Friday off while my daughter's in school. And then I meet on Sundays. But then, even then, I have even created more boundaries of I'll only do 3 meetings a day, period. Because there was that point where I would have 4 or 5 meetings back to back. And I was like, I'm so tired, you know? So it was like kind of like a big learning curve for me because just as my business started to grow, I also had to put in more boundaries in order for me to be able to not really burn out all the time, right? And my 9 to 5 was very much a part of that is for some time we had work from home and then other times we didn't. They took it away. Then we only had one day. And then it was like, if I'm not working from home, I don't have time at work to do anything for the business, right? Like I have to do my own bookkeeping. I have to do everything by myself. And so I don't have time for that if I'm in the office all the time. So just things like that. It was a big transition. And I think through that time, at first I was having fun with it, but then it got real serious.
I'm getting too big. This is
Yeah. 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 There was a
yeah.
big demand in 2022 for me. It was
Uh,
a big demand. And
yeah.
I made about $20,000 in 6 weeks at the beginning of 2023. That was thanks
Wow.
to Kat's coaching.
Yeah.
And it was a lot. It was a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. I mean, sometimes I think that when you start to experience those wins, right? And then you see how big things can get,
Mhm.
it makes you want to stop. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
How do we move forward with this new reality? So that's awesome. And honestly, like I can really feel just how much you really want to help the community, and I think that's what really attracts people, right? It's like your authenticity and your genuineness. So it's no surprise that that was such a huge snowball effect for you to, especially when you started opening up your account and like really talking about this and asking
Yeah.
for that support. Okay. So I know that you've expressed really loving your job. Like it's something
Mhm.
that you don't see yourself leaving to do your business full time.
Mhm.
What motivates you to keep wanting to do both?
That's a good question. I like doing it both. I like doing both. I think that's what keeps me motivated is that I like it. So I don't want to stop either one. I've had to get really good at drawing boundaries all over the place at work or my 9 to 5 with the business, especially too, because I could very easily get sucked in completely into the business for a very long time, right? Like I could totally see how people do, the business full time because you could get sucked into doing so many different things. But I've really had to, one is draw boundaries and two is accept my reality, right? I have to accept that I can't make reels every day. I can't post every day. I can't do newsletters every week sometimes, right? Like there's just times in my life where I just can't do it. And that's okay. And being okay with that, right? Like when I was in my trial, it was just like I just can't pay attention to the business right now. I can't do the tracking for the business right. I can't. There's just certain things I couldn't do, and I had to be okay with that. And I had to accept it. It didn't make me a bad entrepreneur. It didn't make me a bad business owner or whatever. Like it was just my life, right? Like sometimes your 9 to 5 takes priority. Sometimes your kid takes priority, and everything else has to fall in line. So I think that's what's really helped me with both. It's just like boundaries and accepting my situation.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you for that. So true. It's so tough to bring yourself to to those thoughts and saying, you know what, this is what it is.
Mhm.
So for
Yeah.
sure.
And it helps that when you have passion and love for those things, it helps because you want to do it. It's not something I dread doing. It's not something I do just because of the money, right?
Yeah.
I do it because I love it. And
Yeah.
so that really helps. It's a blessing and a curse sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I mean, it's being in that coaching energy. I think that's how you know, like you figure it out, right? this is what I love to do. I think when it comes to business, like there's the creative, like what you actually do for your business. And then there's like the business running part of it that
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard to separate. And I feel the same way when I'm coaching clients. I love coaching. Like I love talking to my clients and going
Mhm.
through the coaching, just the questions and doing the sessions. And then it's done and you're like, oh crap, I didn't post today, you know?
Yes, that's what I was thinking when you were saying that. I was like, I love coaching. I hate creating content.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
And I
like,
mean, and sometimes I don't mind creating content. Like it's fun. Like I
mhm.
like to do lives. And now I'm getting more better at it.
Yeah.
I didn't like doing that because I'm like, ugh, the camera. But in terms of just there's this pressure, like, oh, I need to be loud today. How do I do that? What do I even talk about? I'm like, okay, what did me and my client talk about today? So it's like this pressure to like create something so that you could put it out there so that you could be the business owner or show up for that business, at
Yeah.
least to have an open sign, at
Mhm.
least, hi, I'm open. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think sometimes it can be hard to separate the two, but
definitely.
totally relate to the being in that coaching energy and versus the energy of putting out the open sign and the like, hey, come,
Yes,
let's work together.
definitely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I know I was going to ask a little bit about how you stay disciplined, but you mentioned that you have a lot of boundaries and that there's like
Mhm.
boundaries all over the place. What do those boundaries look like for you? And I guess just a couple examples. I know I
Yeah.
want to go into the bigger question of what your day really looks like.
So for me, boundaries have been really about my time and my focus and my energy. And so, for example, yesterday, like I really wasn't feeling well. I was really exhausted. I had therapy earlier in the day and I had a coaching call at 4:30. And I was like, I just really don't feel well. My mind isn't there. And so being okay with saying, hey, I'm sorry I can't show up for you today. Can we reschedule this? I think that has been huge for me, right? Saying that, like, don't push through, right? Like, if you're not there, if you don't feel well, don't push through. Get what you need first. And I love that my clients are super understanding about it. And I am the same with them when they need something. And I try to be as flexible as I can with them because I get it. Life is lifing, right? But for me, the biggest boundaries that I've learned from Kat, honestly, is to take my days off, right? So take my Saturdays off, have days where I'm not doing anything for the business, which I do when I'm on vacation. I'm like, nope, I don't touch this right now. So I have Saturdays off always, except for today because I had to make up some stuff, right? And then Sundays, I have meetings and it's only within a certain amount of hours and it's only 3 meetings a day. Um, Fridays, my big boundary is like, I do not do meetings until after I drop off my daughter at school and before I pick her up. I do not do meetings when she's here, right? That's a big one for me. And with my job, I think it's just like, it has been really don't work on your business at work. Is I used to do that a lot, and I had to be like, "No, like, your business is your business. You can do it on your off time, on your at home, but we're not doing this at work, right? Like, unless I'm on a break or something." Just things like that. But the biggest ones have been limiting my energy. So, like, knowing when to not take on too many clients, knowing not when not to take on too many meetings, knowing my limits and sticking to them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So, I really want to get into the question of the hour because
Yeah.
I I feel like for me when I was trying to figure out how to build a business and I was working full time, I had no idea what how to structure my day, and that was so difficult for me, which I think ended up creating a lot of thoughts around what I can do and led me to essentially make the decision to quit my job. But you
Yeah.
so have so gracefully have been like, okay, I love my job and I also love my business and I love to coach. So, can you walk me through a, a typical day for you when you're both at your full-time job, perhaps also thinking about your business. And what does a typical day in your life look like when you're both we're doing both?
Yeah.
From when you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed at night. What does that look like?
Yeah. So I think it depends on if I'm, of course, am I in the office? Am I working from home? Do I have to be out in the field? Right. So regularly, let's say a regular day for me going into the office is I wake up usually about 5:30. I make breakfast for me, for my daughter, and then I get ready to go to work because I try to be out of here by 7. And so I'm pretty much always the one that wakes up early. So I always make my daughter breakfast. I'll comb her hair, try to get her ready because dad takes her to school. So that's usually my morning. And then I go into work in the office. And sometimes I'll be listening to money podcasts on the way. So I get a lot of ideas for the business. And then I go to work and it's just focus on work, right? Sometimes I'll make posts like on my stories of things that happen at work. If me and a coworker are talking about money, right? Like then I'll make a post about it. Then I'm big on my stories because of that, because I'm like, really, that's the easiest, fastest thing I can get out. I don't have time to make like a full-on content or a full-on reel. So like I'm in my stories a lot because it's the easiest thing for me, right? So I'll go to work. I will work till I don't know, whatever time, which I'm trying to be better about. And then I come home
What time do
at
you what time do you start work? What is
7:30.
7:30?
7:30.
Okay, so you are in the office at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I try to be there before 7:30 because where I work, there's this thing where like if you don't get there before 7:30, you go to the loser lot parking. So I try to go like the good parking. Yeah. And
Yeah.
also I'm a morning person. I have a lot of energy in the morning and I've recognized that. So I try to go in, it's quiet, it's peaceful, I can focus and I could just get my stuff done. Right.
Okay. Okay.
I really don't do anything for the business of at work other than posting on social media when things come to mind, but that's about it. And then that's like an easy day where I go in the office and then I come home, right? Because there's not a lot of back and forth. And I come home and then I'm a mom.
Time do you so you're in the office at 7:30 and
Mhm.
then it's a full day in the office. So you're done around 3?
5:30, 5:45.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are long days.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in
So
there at around 7:30, have a full day. You post on stories if things come up as you have
mhm,
conversations. And you're in the office physically until about 5:30.
mhm.
Okay.
And I gotta say that not only post stories, but I also respond to clients' Voxers. So I have Voxer where clients can message me or send me voice notes, and I do answer them during the day when I have like when I'm walking in between things or I'm waiting for something. I always check my phone for things with clients or emails I respond to. So that I do kind of like in between things when I'm waiting for stuff. Yeah.
Okay. And so you get home. So you're done around 5:30. Is that when
Mhm.
you drive home from the office? And how
Mhm.
long is your drive home?
About 20, 30 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So not
Yeah.
too bad. Yeah.
No, it's not too bad, thankfully. Yeah.
What does your drive look like? What do you do during your drive? I imagine it's like some alone time for you. Is that the case?
So it's funny that you asked that because I am so limited on time, what I have done, I tend to do a lot is have like these conversations, I call them, where I have like a stand for my phone and it just stays up there and then I'll just like rant about a money thing. So and that again, it's in my stories. Because that's really the only time I have, right? Like that drive home is the only time I have to be on my stories and talk about whatever or teach about something or listening to money podcasts and learning and I'm constantly learning. And now I'm not learning for me, I'm learning for my clients because all my clients have different situations. So I'm constantly looking for things that are going to help them. Right. And so looking for podcasts that I can use to help them is really what I use that time for, honestly, or to be on stories. So not so much me time, but it is fun. It is fun for me. So
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's still so you do the research, you listen to their podcasts, but
yeah.
you also talk your ideas out. Okay,
Mhm. Yeah.
awesome.
That's like a day in the office. Then there's days that I work from home or I have Fridays off, and those are a little bit more chaotic sometimes. For example, like yesterday, right? I had, on a Friday off or a work from home day, I take my daughter to school. So that means getting up, making breakfast for her, getting her ready, and then I get ready and then kind of do some work in between if I'm working from home. And then I'll take her to school. Then I'll come back and I'll work some more and then pick her up at 2, then come home and then keep working if I'm working from home. And if I'm on my Friday off, I'll usually have meetings in between that. So like I'll come home and I'll have like one coaching call, two coaching calls, business things to do, like work on my PowerPoints or something. And so there's times where it's really chaotic in that sense. Like I have to make it work in between, fit it all in. Even today, right? Like I think this podcast, we talked about it really quickly, just maybe a couple of days ago. And then I had to reschedule 2 clients to today. And then I also had to take my daughter to gymnastics. So I have to play Tetris with all my time to make it work.
That's a good visual. The Tetris to go
Yeah,
figure
that's
out
really
the
what it is. And a lot of
yeah.
times what I'm looking for in between the appointments that I make is having time in between to give myself a breather, and then making sure that there's a stopping point where I can be like, I'm done and I can just be with my family.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So then on a typical day when you're working, so I guess you sort of have like three types of days. So you have a
Yes.
day where you're both in the office,
Mhm.
and those are more focused on that, what you do
Mhm.
at work and family. And then there's days where you're working from home for the office,
Yes.
right? So like you're working from home, but in those days when you're working from home,
Mhm.
does do those days feel a little bit more like those days are the ones that you think or feel more chaotic for you because there's just like it's work from home, so everything's sort of blurred together, right?
Yeah, it does feel more
Okay.
chaotic because you're like constantly bouncing from one thing to the other, right? Like one
Yeah.
second you're in mom mode, and the next second you're in work mode, and then the next second you're doing laundry, or the next second you're doing something else. Like you're like bouncing back and forth. And sometimes it's just like, what happened? you know? So yeah, it just get hard sometimes. And like you said, the lines do get blurred because there's times where like if I, for example, yesterday because I had a headache and I didn't feel well, I took a nap.
Yeah.
And then I ended up working later because I didn't work earlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that you still take the time that you need to do what you need for you, and then you negotiate. You're like, okay, well, I didn't work earlier, so let
Right.
me just do some work today
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you get home, so like after 5:30, so let's
Mhm.
say like you did go into the office that day. What
Mhm.
does that look like for you? Does it is it just like family and then you're do any nighttime routines?
Yes. So I'm definitely a grandma and I'm done at 8 p.m. So that's why coming home earlier for me is important because I only have so much time with my daughter. So usually I'll come home, I'll change. Me and my daughter will hang out because she usually wants to hang all over me. And then I'll have dinner. We'll all have dinner. And then either we will each be kind of doing our own thing. So like I'll be reading a book. My daughter will be like relaxing because she's done with her homework. And if there is a night where we have to do like shower time is like a whole other deal. So we have to like be like, okay, I'm constantly watching the clock. 6:30 is her dinner time. Then I have to get her in the shower and then I have to help her with that. And then I have to like get her out and make sure she gets dressed and comb her hair and then gets her vitamins and then read a book before 15 minutes before 8 p.m. and then get her into bed. And then at 8 p.m. she's in bed. Then I have only about 1 hour for me or me and my husband. So 8 to 9 is kinda like my time where I read a book, watch TV, I don't know, journal, color, whatever I want. And then at usually by 9:30, I'm asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that I same. I'm like I go to bed at 8:30 because it
Mm.
takes me about an hour. I just watch TV, and then
Yeah.
I'm knocked out by 9:30. So
Yeah. Hello?
okay, awesome. So then there's nighttime routine, and that nighttime routine looks pretty much the same whether you're going into the office or working from
Yeah.
home. Okay.
Yeah, and if I'm the good thing that my husband and I have great teamwork. So if I'm really, really drained one day, he will take over with her or vice versa. If I come home and I've like the other day, I came home and I was like really energetic and I was like still good till I was like she was cooking with me. I made lasagna, which I never cook. So that tells you that alone tells you that I was like feeling good because I got after work, I came home, I changed, and I told her, "Hey, come cook with me." So we made lasagna together, and then I was like just playing with her and doing stuff with her, and then that was our night, you know. So it's like I really take advantage of my energy when I have it, right? Like if I'm feeling good, then I try to like let's go, let's do something fun, let's work together. But if I'm drained, and I listen to my body and I ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the days when
It's
you
been
do coaching, so like basically like are the only the every other Fridays that you have off, are those the only days where you coach the clients that you have?
So
Okay.
I try to make it so that the only and really the only availability I put on my scheduling is every other Friday and Sundays.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
But if a client something comes up, we have to meet sooner. Like for example, my client that I had this morning, she had booked one until April. I was like, girl, that's too far away. We need to meet sooner. So then I try to fit it in with my whatever's going on.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, it's good that I don't schedule too many things because then if like I want to take on a client on Saturday at 8 a.m., I can, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't have anything else that day other than taking my kid to gymnastics is the only thing I've scheduled.
Yeah.
Or maybe sometimes we meet during the week. Like, if I work from home, I tend to be more flexible on meeting during the week because I don't feel as tired as when I go in the office. So we'll
Mhm.
meet at 6:30. And again,
Mhm.
everything for me has like it's intentional. I do 6:30 because that's when my daughter's eating dinner.
Mhm.
So then
Right.
I'm not away from her. And I think one big thing I've learned when I started coaching was how valuable my time is with my daughter, and that I have to pull back my availability with my clients because my daughter is more valuable, my time with
Mm.
her. And that's another thing that helped me charge my worth is because every hour that I am doing this business things is an hour I'm not with her.
Mm.
And is that's a high price to pay for me, right? And so I'm doing it for her or for us, for our family, because I'm the breadwinner and my husband stays home.
Mhm.
And that's why I do what I do. But I also want to actually enjoy that life. So when I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation. It's a no-go for anything else, right? And luckily my clients are very understanding and I always give them a heads up if something's gonna happen. Like when I went to trial, I told them, hey, like my availability is gonna be limited, but let's try to make it work however we can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You mentioned that you have a VA. And so in working with your VA and getting that support, how does that fit into the days where they're chaotic? I imagine that
Mhm.
support is much needed when you're feeling that way.
Oh yeah. Thanks to her is why I have content.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if it wasn't for her, I would not have content because the energy and the time is just not there. I barely have time to even post it, right? We have a folder that's like things I haven't posted yet because I have to get the caption done and da da da, right? So she's been invaluable to me, especially when I was doing the reels. Like I would record it and then she would edit it, right? To whatever. And I was like, oh, I don't have to, one less thing I have to worry about. And that's the important thing for me is she makes it so it's one less thing for me to do. Right. I really don't have the time to apply to a website. So I had paid somebody to start it up and then she keeps it and she updates it when I need it. And again, it's because I do not have the bandwidth to deal with it. I
Yeah.
recently hired a CPA to help me move over completely to QuickBooks and for her to handle my bookkeeping because it's one less thing for me to do. And so that's
Yeah.
even more important why for me to charge properly is because I need to be able to do those things in order to keep the business going. Not only that, but then I am very intentional on who I hire to work with. I'm very intentional on working with people with women of color. And so my VA is Latina and she's a Navy veteran and she's my sister. So I
Yeah.
in a way have been training her and then that way she can establish her own business as a VA later on,
Yeah.
right? So just everything I do is with intentionality really
Yeah.
because I'm one of those people where like if I'm going to get a tattoo it has to mean something, you know? So just everything I do has to mean something to me.
Awesome. Well, that sounds really good. Thank you so much for just sharing everything and how you do it. It just it speaks volumes to knowing when you need help, knowing when you need support,
Mhm.
knowing the support systems around you. So, and especially wanting figure out a way even if I think for people that even one day they see themselves being full-time entrepreneurs, there still has to be that overlap when you're probably doing a 9 to 5 too, because you need to get things off the ground and like how to
Yeah.
do that. And so learned so much from you today. Thank you, Nathy, for sharing
Of course. Thanks for
how you
having
do
me.
this. Yeah, like how you do this, how you create such a wonderful business and help your community, and how you yourself experience it and keep it going for you, yourself, your family, your community. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I love talking about these things. I want more people to pursue entrepreneurship or side businesses if that's what they want to do, because it does help with getting to reach your goals. I think entrepreneurship is one of those things that people don't talk enough about that will help you reach that next level with your wealth. And so
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, totally. 100%. I mean, that was the reason why I started. But, you know, like I was a little naive. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to like make more money. And I'm still, recuperating. So
Yeah.
it is, everyone has different
Yeah.
journeys, but it's still something that I think you learn so much about yourself when you begin to start a business. So thank you so
Yeah.
much. This
Of
has been
course.
incredible. Thank you so much for tuning in to this special episode of the Be a Boss Coaching podcast, the 9 to Grind series. I hope that you learned so much from today's entrepreneur and that you took away new insights and new ways to navigate both your entrepreneurship journey with your professional career. If you have any questions about today's episode or you are interested in learning more about our featured entrepreneur, come on over to the show notes and click on the links to connect. These women are powerful and are ready to give you their own tips and advice to help you in your entrepreneurship journey. And of course, you can also reach out to me. I am Bia. I am the founder of BeaBossCoaching, and I help women of color, BIPOC, and queer entrepreneurs find their own confidence in their entrepreneurship journey like a boss. So come on over to BeaBossCoaching.com. Take a look at the website, what we offer, the freebies that we have, and any other podcasts or blogs that you're interested in. You can even schedule a complimentary call. I can't wait to get to know you. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you in the next video.